Okay, so I'm live here and I am trying to see if Mr. Kwar Yusuf can come on to this program for some reason. He was able to show up on mine, but it's not letting me add. Oh, God. Technical difficulties. Technical difficulties.
Yeah, I did try, but there is no option for that. It's just say the pin thing, it doesn't say the video thing. I mean, her comments, I tried to click in, but it say pin comments, read comments, blog, so it doesn't come there. So that means I did try that one. हमारे तमाम नाज़रीन के लिए कि आज हमारे साथ क्रिस्टी पावर्स जो यूएस के 2020 इलेक्शन में प्रेसिडेंट की कैंडिडेट होंगी वो हमारे साथ होंगी. We are having some difficulties to put her through, so let's see what we can figure out. You are live. So how can, because all audience, they will come to my live, because they know that you're going to be here. So, I mean, because it's not a time right now, so they might come later on they will join us. But if we take them over there, so Chrissy, I think if you are having a problem, the video, I can take you on the phone and my audience can hear you. I mean, they can see your pictures, but they can hear you. Oh, that answer is going to be. How about if I take you on the phone, over the phone, so you can talk? I mean, you like this phone.
Okay, here. We're going to make this work.
अदरान वो कैसे कर सकता हूँ मैं?
Hello.
Hello.
Oh, hi, Krishna. How are you?
Good.
So, how I can switch to your life? I mean.
Okay, don't just stay where you are. That's fine for today.
Hello.
Just stay where you are.
Okay.
And
so how I can switch to your life? I mean.
So I'm going to do this. Okay, so basically what I have this is a little crazy, but what I have going is on my live screen, I am showing your live screen.
Okay.
And so we're basically working with 4 different computers right now to get this to happen. So I'm not going to be live on your Facebook, but yeah, using the phone's a good idea. And I have my live recording your face and the phone at the same time. So it's just a weird way to go about it, but we can still accomplish this that way. So what are your questions for me?
Well, I mean, that's what to say. We in the Pakistan community in the U.S. are decided to see candidates like you contesting for the high office. We Pakistani, along with other immigrants of color, are being painted negatively. What should we expect from you to make the U.S. inclusive again and feel us happy again?
Okay. Well, basically, when I get the national press, when I get nationally televised press, every message that I send will be very aggressive in a happy and upbeat way of communicating that bigotry and hatred for any people of any color cannot exist in America from this time forward. And if you go onto my website on powers2020.com, when you get a chance to go there, go to my section that says quotes. I have 45 male president quotes from the past. And I wrote this several months ago before I even started meeting with any of the Pakistani Americans in Brooklyn or New Jersey or California now. And if you scroll to the bottom and you look at my quote, it's been almost a year ago now, I wrote that it is now time in America that all discrimination must cease to exist. We do not have to put up with selling dirty laundry regarding skin tones and melanoma or anything to do with the skin anymore. We need to get beyond the superficial appearance of people, because on the inside we are all the same color. We all have the same hearts, we all have the same lungs, and we all have the same anatomy on the inside. As a healthcare provider, I fully understand how our minds and our hearts operate from a holistic sense, an anatomical sense, and I even wrote a book called Smart Girl Runs about how all children are the same color on the inside. So, and I wrote that book 10 or 15 years ago when I started entertaining the idea of wanting to be the first president of the United States that happens to be a woman. So any kind of bigotry or hatred would be shut down in my rhetoric when I speak all the time. I mean, it's just how I'm wired as a female. It's how I'm wired as a creator of life. And there is not a bone in my body that is against any ethnic background in America. We are all immigrants here. We all came here. We all had to land here somehow. We all had to fight to make a living here. And there is really no room for any sort of discrimination in my mind. Especially for women. So if we can get me to the White House exactly 100 years after the Suffrage Act was passed and we were able to start voting, Raja Razak made the comment that this is perfect for 2020 if we can get you to the White House, because it's exactly 100 years after women were allowed to vote for the first time in America. So right now I'm currently an independent presidential candidate, non-party, because the Democrats have not rose up and shown me the money. If the Democrats rise up and they show me the money, then I will run Democratic, and I would like that decision to be made by the end of January. If they don't, I'm not going to drop out. I'm not going to stop. I'll continue to stay the course and run as a Republican, run as an independent non-party. I started this as a Republican, though, in 11 and 12, and I saw that I was getting nowhere with older white men. They were working against me, even though I'm white. They were working against me because I was female. They didn't care if I was black, white, pink, or orange. The men cared that I was a female, and they would do anything to stop me from progressing politically in the Republican Party. So I ended up switching to the Democratic Party. I even went to the Democratic National Committee. I've been in both offices since 11 and 12, and then 15 and 16. And I got tired of banging my head against the wall when they put Hillary up, when I saw that she was not strong enough to physically run at the end of 2016. So I switched to independent non-party so I could stay in that race. And the press was controlling the vote. The televised press was handpicking the candidates. Because I'm not new to politics at all, but the press would make the country and the people as a whole think that I'm brand new to this. I'm not. I've been very involved since the first day of the Iraq War in 2003. That's when I started documenting my American walk. People of color are not. I'm not going to erase ethnicity in America. I want people to continue to wear the hijabs. I want people to represent their ethnic backgrounds as if they feel they are beautiful and can express their ethnic backgrounds in America. I want that to stand out. I don't want that to be erased. Our skin tones, though, are something that we need to celebrate and not discriminate against. I mean, our makeup in America and the way that we show and we walk around the streets, we need to take pride in what color we are. We need to take pride in all of our differences. So, as far as immigration goes, what I want is I want data to be run on where people are coming from around the world. I want people to be able to peacefully approach our borders by either going online or actually walking up to the border and having a National Guardsman. Our National Guard was created to protect our borders. I would like our National Guard to be able to peacefully help these people put their data into IT systems that we create in America with our new college graduates. And I want the people to be able to be told immediately when they can come into the United States and if they can come into the United States. And it will be based on whether or not we need their skills and what their ages are and so forth and so on. We may say, you know what, we don't need somebody that's 22 years old for 2 more years that does what you do. Or we may say, oh, we do need you now. We need you in this state. Please go to the state immediately. We need your services. You're coming right over. So it'll kind of be based on percentages of who wants to come and what skills they offer, because we don't want them to come if they're not going to succeed. We want them to come so that we can help their American dream come to life quickly and rapidly. And we need, but we don't need people to just come here to try to have their babies. We don't need people to just try to come here just to escape their own country that they should actually potentially be staying in and helping their own country. So I would have very strong relations also with every single country in the world. There is not one country that I would feel ill will against. I would be rational, and I would want to meet with every single leader in the world that cares about their people and cares about preserving life and preserving their ethnic backgrounds. So I'm a woman that would celebrate diversity in America and that will welcome immigrants from all over the world, but it's going to be based on where we can use them to their best of potential. So I wouldn't close the borders to any country. I wouldn't close the borders to any person. I just want them to come here when the time is right and when the time is ideal.
Also, Pakistan has always maintained friendly relationship with China and the US. China is making a big investment in Pakistan. How would like to see Pakistan maintaining its traditional friendship with both the 2 biggest economic hub of the world.
Okay, and what were, in regards to China, you
My
said?
question is that Pakistan has always maintained friendly relationship with China and the US.
Okay.
China is making a big investment in Pakistan.
Mm-hmm.
How would you like to see Pakistan maintaining its traditional friendship with both the two biggest economies of the world?
Okay. Well, with China, first of all, I would help China, even though they're communistic. I still would be able to peacefully help guide them in changing certain things that they do in their country that they allow to happen that are not good for our global environment or our global climate. So I will work, I can work hand in hand with CPEC. I can work hand in hand with the Chinese government regarding their pollution standards and their production standards. So I'm a child from Detroit, Michigan. I understand what it means to have a powerful United States city rise up due to automotive and then be taken to its knees when it is becoming too powerful from, you know, what happened in Detroit. It became too powerful from the automotive industry starting in 1980. Well, NAFTA was signed in 1991. I was married that year. So I grew up being a kid that was, you know, I was a blue collar family. My family was all automotive unionized workers, and I lived and I worked hard to get my degrees in healthcare. And then as soon as I got my degrees in healthcare and started to want a job, Detroit was taken down intentionally. So we have to have countries and cities around the world that understand and respect life and where we are at different places in our lives. People in China need to continue to progress and produce for the United States, but not at the expense of global warming and bad pollution, not at the expense of bad water quality, and not at the expense of child labor, you know, that is abused, or women labor that is abused. So China has become very powerful. They own many sections and many entities in the United States now, but we need to recognize that Pakistan and China, I will be very friendly to both countries as long as they're willing to work in peaceful manners and that we can focus on the health of the environment and the health of the people. You know, so that's, I would have that outlook with almost every single country I dealt with, whether it be Lebanon or Kazakhstan or Uzbekistan or, you know, Afghanistan or any of the stands. I really treat people fairly and equally because I really fully embody the American spirit, and that we represent the world here. You know, many countries in Europe and that sort of thing, they're becoming more like America, and they're taking in all the refugees that they can, or they're taking in as many different people. They're becoming melting pots. You know, we were the original country to really be founded on that idea. And so I will work with Pakistan and China on a positive way. I mean, I am so not like Trump. I do not approach things with aggression. I approach any issue with love and compassion and empathy. So I'm completely the opposite of where he's at. We will, instead of selling fear, I sell love and happiness and celebration. That's what the world needs right now, is love and celebration and happiness. And New York City is not used to selling that in their news. New York City is used to making money off of terror and tragedy and superstorms and cancer and all of that. And I am wired to combat all of that negativity. I have a strength within me that only a presidential candidate that has lived out her life in 6 states with some physical pain I've dealt with over the years and economic pain. So Pakistan and China will have a very good relationship with me because I can't wait to work with them. I can't wait to go to Pakistan. I can't wait to go to China. I am fresh eyes on the entire area, but I come from a city that was full of blue collar workers that did not have high levels of education, but knew how to create automotive parts, automotive vehicles on assembly lines. I grew up, my father worked for General Motors, and I grew up going to the midnight shift, seeing my aunts and uncles work on how to produce plastic parts in Detroit, Michigan. I grew up seeing my dad run work as a head plumber over a 30-year career for General Motors until a college kid rose up and then took his job because things became very technical at that point. So I grew up watching the nuts and bolts of the way cars were put together as a child in Detroit. I also grew up in a very spiritual family. My one grandfather was a minister, and so I went to church every Sunday. That does not make me a person that wants to push Christianity on people. It makes me a person that understands that spirituality is important across the globe, regardless of if it's Jewish faith, Muslim faith, or Christian faith, or atheist, Buddhist, you name it. Everybody has some sort of faith. So we need to recognize the minds, the hearts, the equality of the human being at this point in addressing any issue for any country that has been driven by fear for the last 2 to 4 years with Donald Trump.
Where do you stand on the issue of healthcare for the people in this country?
Okay.
Should Affordable Care Act be dismantled, or it should be made better?
Okay. Okay, so this is what I believe. I believe that if I were put into the White House tomorrow, the first executive order that I would sign on anything would be for the IgG food antibody test. It's a one-time blood test that gives all Americans 300 pieces of data on food that they can eat that fuels their specific blood, not their specific blood type. Okay, so immediately I would be able to give people a choice test for free that is a one-time blood test, so we have something to work with immediately. It's not going to be 2 years down the road. It's not going to be 10 years down the road waiting for the laws to change. So we automatically will get that one test. What that test will tell you is how your blood reacts.
It's just one thing. Radhika, can you turn on this one, because it's very hard to become the whole page. I mean, if you can turn on the speaker, that's it.
Okay. Okay, is that better? Yes. Yes. Okay. Hi, Roz. Okay. Now, that's okay. It's good to see him. It's good to see him. I'm so thankful for him. I'm so grateful for him. He and I are creating a great working relationship here. He's given me a ton of momentum. What I learned from him over the last 3 weeks has been that minorities equal momentum. So I'm extremely grateful for the Pakistani Americans in Brooklyn and in New Jersey and now in California that are rising up to support me and want to know more about me. Now back to healthcare. So basically, I don't think I will just be for a single payer system. I think what I would like to see is single payer for everybody, but not for everything, every single healthcare thing that everybody needs. I think we will need single payer for basics to get a baseline for people on where they're at and then to direct them. So if people continue to want to, that work for corporations that depend on specific insurances, they don't want to lose that, that can still be an option for those people to keep in addition to single payer. But what happened with single payer is initially when Obamacare went out, and when I actually campaigned for Obama in Brooklyn on the phone one night for this back about 4 years ago. And basically, people were very grateful to get the single payer option, but when it was first implemented, it was about $150 tax per I believe it was per month for the people. Now, for some people, it has gone up to over $400 or $500 for some people that just cut hair, that just flip pizzas. You know, these are people that have to pay rent to work. So they are having to choose between paying their health insurance or paying for their health care. I mean, paying for their health care or paying for their rent for their small business. So that's wrong. That's too expensive. It's never going to work. So we need to get to the root cause of how people eat and how people fuel their bodies, and then take that data, immediately have people start turning around the way they eat, the percentages of what types of foods they eat, and then move more into massaging how we pay for what people need. Doctors overtest, they overdiagnose, they overdocument, and that's all based on incentives given from the government, because the government gives more incentives for more documentation. That means less quality of care. So, and you can read about this. I go into this really in depth on my website because I'm a healthcare provider. So an example would be, as a physical therapist, I would go into the homes of patients. I worked in homes of patients in Michigan, Ohio, Florida, and New York. And over the years, my profession progressed from just having to write a short little note that took a couple of minutes into 600 points of data on the computer for one visit. That was, I was losing money working as a therapist with a healthcare master's degree, and now we graduate with doctorates. I was watching the government bankrupt what I was doing. So that's why I said we need a practical test that can apply to every single person. What is one practical test that can apply to every single person that matters the most? What do we need? We need to know how we fuel our bodies. We need to know what percentages of foods our particular blood type needs, or blood needs. So that's why I picked that one test that will be a baseline test that would be offered immediately to all Americans, so that people that are abusing the system, maybe people that get the food stamps, but they go out and buy a bunch of junk food that makes them sick, you know, those people shouldn't be allowed to operate like that, or to just spend food stamps on beer and cigarettes and that's it. We need to have our people, sorry, my dogs are barking. We need to have our people eating healthy. We need to have our people and know when they can still, you know, live a healthier lifestyle. So I'm not saying I would get, oh, I gotta let my dogs outside. I'm not saying I would get rid of alcohol. I'm not saying I would get rid of cigarettes. I'm not saying I would get rid of any of these vices that people enjoy. But we would cut down on the healthcare expense so that, you know, if somebody doesn't have insurance and they have stage 4 cancer and they have to go get, you know, a year and a half of chemo or radiation, they can't be left in debt for $100,000, you know, something like that. I mean, we need to make it affordable so we can, our life is short as it is. So we need to make our healthcare affordable so that when we do get ill and sick and die, we take a few number of medications, but they're the right ones. I have been in assisted living homes where people are taking up to 20 medications they're prescribed. It's ridiculous. It's too much. So I'm not going to bankrupt our healthcare system. We are still going to get sick. We are still going to die. I'm not going to like double the age of people with this knowledge. You know, we're still going to live a lifespan of like 75 to 105, you know. But I will be able to offer every American something that's going to help them right off the bat. Trump cannot even take a blood pressure. Why would we want somebody that can't even take a blood pressure, or that does not even know how the frontal lobe, the occipital lobe, the cerebellar lobe, any of the brain, you know, why would we want anybody like that in charge of our healthcare system? I do not care about deals. I do not care about who can do this deal or who can do that deal. I don't care about the business end of it. I care about the people being productive first. We have to have our people get to a healthier state right away in order to afford anything, regardless of the business deals that go on. There is not one other candidate in the Democratic Party or the Republican Party that can compete with my level of knowledge. There is not one candidate. I don't care if they're Bernie Sanders or Elizabeth Warren or Joe Biden. They do not know what I know because they were not educated at the University of Michigan in Flint in healthcare. The degree I got several times over when I was in doing my rotations in the hospitals in Michigan, many doctors always said to me, why did you not become a doctor? And I said, because I wanted to have a life that existed beyond medicine. And I grew up in a spiritual household, so I was always pushing for people. I was a very strong people person. So I did end up taking the MCAT. I could have gotten into most medical schools across the United States. But I chose to get involved in politics starting in 2003 with my outreach for the troops in Iraq, because I did not want the Iraqi American troops to come back like the Vietnam vets did. So it's taken me, since 2003 to get to this point, to meet people like you that matter and make a huge difference and are pushing for the right woman. I cannot say enough that I am the right woman for 2020. I'm even beyond the fact that I'm a woman, I'm the right person for our times. If Trump were to leave office constitutionally, before that, I am ready to go. If we were to have a special election at the end of January or February or March and we were to sue for that, I am ready to go in now. I do not have to even wait until 2020. I'm ready to go in now. On Facebook Live about 3 weeks ago, I was reading the Constitution out loud. I read it from start to finish. I did it twice over 2 different sessions on my Facebook Live. There is a part in the Constitution that says you can remove the president and the vice president because of disability. It doesn't say that you only can remove the president. So the New York City press always says on TV that we can only, if we remove the president, then the vice president would automatically get the job. That is not factual. That is not what the Constitution says. The Constitution says that we could remove them both if we deem it necessary. So we need to push our Congress to do that, because our Congress is, in my opinion, is at its weakest point it's ever been, and so is our Supreme Court. When they were putting Trump up for election and Hillary, and they were not putting me in the press, I knew as a Democratic candidate at that time, I knew that the press was controlling the people. The people were not controlling the people. So I sued in the Supreme Court to try to get ballot access. I tried to get the Supreme Court to push me on the ballot in 2016, and they failed me. Justice Scalia, who was the civil rights justice, died 10 days after I submitted my case to the Supreme Court, and it became extraordinary. And then I appealed it, and I appealed it, and I appealed it. So I'm telling you, I've been involved in this at the highest levels. I've been making decisions with congressmen since 2003. I've met with congressmen at the federal, I've met with politicians at the federal, state, and local level on Long Island. I've been honored on the assembly floor in Albany twice for my work for the troops in Afghanistan and Iraq and Qatar. My books also went to Qatar. Well, I mean, I basically want to know more percentages. So I want a global stage so that I can talk to the world and I can say to them, I can encourage them before to seek in their hearts before they come to the United States, to really look at their motivations. Because I feel like if we get me in office, I'm going to help people start to take pride in their own countries. Okay, so I think I'm going to be able to help Brexit turn around in Europe. I think I'm going to help the refugee situation going on in multiple countries right now that are failing. You know, Greece, to bail out Greece right now, it would be about 8 Detroits. It's about, I did the numbers that the New York Times put out about 3 or 4 years ago, and to bail out Greece, it would have been around 8 times what it took to bail out Detroit. Part of the problems in our world is because we continue to elect men or people that want to seek out war in the world and make money off of that over the oil, over idealism or whatever. That's why it's so critical right now that we get me in there as the first female candidate, because I will lift everybody like Princess Diana used to lift people. I will lift the spirits of people. When I started the Golden Soldier Project, and I said this on stage a couple of times for APPAC and for Seiko, when I met Raja, I basically said my first project for the troops in the Middle East was inspired by Psalm 121. Psalm 121 is, I lift up my eyes to the hills. Where does my help come from? My help comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth. And from there, I produced a book for troops with 150 people in my neighborhood. And then that was in 2003. That was the first year of the Iraq War. Then the next year, I did another book based on another psalm. And then I did another book 2 years after that based on another psalm. And then another book 2 years after that for another psalm. Now, what happened is that's how I did that. 2 in Michigan, 1 in Ohio, 1 in Florida that finished in New York. So my last book was started in Parkland, Florida, and it finished on Long Island, New York, and that's when I started getting the commendations from the New York politicians. And they had looked through the documentation that I had over the years. So I really met, in all the neighborhoods I worked in for those books, I met people from all around the world that had all come here. We are all immigrants here. So, you know, we're Dutch, we're Irish, we're German, we're whatever, you know. And Ancestry.com is showing people how they have so many more percentages of all these different ethnic backgrounds. So we all deserve to be here, but we also need to take pride in our originating countries and be happy about our countries that we're coming from in the first place. So I think our immigration problem will cut down, because I don't think people will flock to want to get here as much when I'm encouraging the people to stay in their homeland. And that we have now finally have a leadership that wants to work with the leaders in all of the homelands. So, I mean, I grew up watching my grandmother welcome 300 people into her church that my grandfather preached at every weekend. I watched my grandfather and my grandmother love people every single week that walked through their door, 300 people. And so why would I not want to take that to the White House, not from a spiritual perspective, but from a leadership perspective? Why would I not want the world to feel like we care about them and we care about their relations? So I think that the world will celebrate with my leadership. I think there will be much less war. You know, we're a country that spends $500 billion annually on our Department of Defense. And I think that there's certain things about that we will be able to really have a level of respect that we don't have right now. We don't have it with our current leadership. And we have a person that in office that does whatever he can to create conflict, because he's from New York and he knows that that's how New York has historically made money for the city as well as for the rest of the country, and that has got to stop. It's got to stop. I mean, we have too many other issues, and life is hard enough as it is. We need to be able to have people celebrate every day, no matter where they are and what country they're in. And you know, I'm for building wealth in almost every nation, but at the same time, you know, not having it wreck our environment, like, you know, the point at which China needs to now make major changes. India needs to make major changes. We cannot have poisoned water all over the world anymore for our humans to drink. We need to have better water. I'd like to touch on that just for a second as well. You know, I'm from Flint, Michigan. Well, I'm not from Flint, Michigan, but I went to school in Flint, Michigan for my healthcare degrees, ironically. When I was trying to get Obama's endorsement in 15 and 16, or for the 15 and 16 election, for the presidency, what Barack Obama did was he flew to Flint, Michigan, and he wrote me a letter that was several paragraphs long where he enacted a bunch of federal agencies to work on the water quality in Flint. It's not resolved yet. The people still have bad water there, but yet, you know, Obama's been out of office for over 2 years. And again, that's not why I'm a proponent for Michelle Obama to go in. I'm not a proponent for Oprah. I'm not a proponent for Angelina Jolie, any of these other PR gurus that have been in movies or talk shows. They don't know healthcare like I do, and they're not from a town that was, a state that was bankrupted almost, and a city that was being poisoned with its water. So my story can relate to India and to Pakistan and to any of the areas that have polluted water. So, you know, I will, again, I'm very health conscious. I will do everything I possibly can to help humanity move forward with less hatred and less bigotry. So I would not close our borders. I want immigrants to be able to come here, but I want to be very smart about when and where they come. And I also want them to be very smart about whether or not they really need to leave their homeland or not, because they can maybe rejoice in their homeland if I am going to visit and work with their people on human rights and atrocities that need to, you know, no longer be tolerated. I'm great, Raz. How are you doing? I mean, my only comment to that is I need to look more into what exactly is provided for free and what the demographic numbers are, because I don't know if the standards are the same. Like Canada, you know, Canada is free, but I know like you can wait forever. If you have a heart issue, you can wait forever to get the heart surgery you need. You have to wait in line. So it's not always, having it be completely free is not always the best thing. You know, we also have multiple states that may equal the population of Pakistan. I have to look at the total population and make sure we're comparing an apple to an orange. Or we're not comparing an apple to an orange, because I just need to look more at the statistics and the quality of care, you know, the amount of different diagnoses and stuff like that. What you have to remember is in Pakistan, if the majority of the people are coming from one part of the world, the number of issues that they have to address medically are going to be different than America, because America has to treat diagnoses from all over the world. You know, we have to treat diagnoses that go back to specific populations of people, like sickle cell anemia is very high in African Americans, but maybe not in Haitian Americans. You know, certain blood cancers may be high in certain other populations of people from a different part of the globe. So, you know, we have to address global health issues here. We're not just addressing, you know, Michigan people, like if you were to think of Michigan just as its own country or something like that. So that's one thing we have to keep in mind when we talk about, you know, any of the European countries, any of the Mideastern countries, any of the South Asian countries, that their population is much smaller, and they have more of the same type of people in the first place. So their issues are going to be a lot less. So affordability in America is expensive because we lead in technology, but also because we have to address every single diagnosis under the sun. Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. One thing I don't know either is I don't know what the tax rates are. I don't know what the tax rates are in Pakistan for all of the people. I don't know if they pay 50% of their money back in taxes. You know, New Yorkers are unique in that New York pays very, very high property taxes, and then other taxes, where in the United States, in most of our other states that have very low populations, their taxes are very, 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 very low. So many people in our states that pay low taxes and work regular, you know, regular daily jobs at minimum wage or just a little bit higher, they couldn't even afford a higher tax rate. They couldn't afford to pay it. So, you know, that's one thing that's unique about America, is that we keep it fairly complicated. We don't have a lot of things for free because we have so much competition here. But if you would be astounded at the pay rates of people outside of New York, and you would be astounded at the tax rates. I mean, we are a country that can afford very, very nice lifestyles for certain people with next to no money. You know, like $10 in Michigan is more like $100 in New York. That's how drastic it is between the states in like a cost of living perspective. So, you know, people are used to working very, very hard, living very high standards of life in America with next to nothing, with paying next to no taxes. So there's room for it to grow, for taxes to go up. However, many of those other states, the people aren't earning the money in the first place. A small percentage, you know, the 1% are earning the higher dollar amounts where they could, you know, weather the 50% tax increases. I live, you know, by marriage, I lived in that highest tax bracket for almost 25 years. So I know what it's like to have to give up my money, 50% of my money. And that's also why I've had a voice politically, because if I walk into a politician's office and said I've paid over $2 million or $3 million in taxes over the years, they immediately listen because they work for taxpayer dollars. But if somebody else is working for minimum wage their whole life and they walk into certain politicians' offices, they're never answered, they never get calls back, and they're never heard. And I've seen that happen. So, that's wrong. And that's why they have a vote, but yet the New York City press still controls all of that, controls who the candidates are from a televised perspective, especially with the federal offices. So, okay. I'm good. How are you? Okay, so the first practical thing that they can do is that my campaign with powers2020.com is not just about me. My campaign is a place, or my Facebook page is a place where their voice can be heard and they can take pride in their community now. So what I'm attempting to do is I'm attempting to have 8 million first-time voters rise up with $5 of a donation at powers2020.com. Now, since I went to New York, all of a sudden I'm having online donation issues that are going to be addressed this week. But what I want people to do is I want people to donate $5, these young kids, that are 18, 19, 20 years old that are going to be first-time voters. I want them to put on my Facebook page, say I am from this community, and this, and I gave my powers 5. So I want them to refer to me as theirs. I want them to say, I gave my powers 5. I want the kids to feel like they own me. I work for them. And then I want them to celebrate that. I want them to post videos. I want them to post it on Instagram. I want them to take pride in my candidacy. And their voice is heard through my website, through my Facebook page, through my Instagram. So they can celebrate digitally that way. Now, the other thing is they need to look to people like Raja Razak, who is a strong community leader in Little Pakistan in Brooklyn. I mean, these people are unstoppable. They have their summertime and their springtime events where they gather in their streets and they just celebrate their culture. They celebrate who they are. So they need to do that. They need to celebrate, celebrate, celebrate. Another, and to broadcast their celebrations in America. What was so striking about APPAC and about SACO is that they're celebrations. They're people coming together. If it's for interdenominational faith, great. If it's for community celebration of, maybe if a Pakistani neighborhood is right next door to an Italian neighborhood, or an African American or a Haitian American or whatever, maybe have 2 cultures come together and celebrate together and broadcast that. we have to just focus on celebration and not let the New York City press shut down the way we think and the way we operate. We have to let our human spirits rise above. So I spent close to $100,000 of my own personal savings this year to put my website up, to record a short TV show, a silly, parody on the grind of rising up regular guys to help on my campaign that have no political experience. And I put that out there so that everybody would have a platform. And, but I finally got the opportunity to get out and speak to these groups now. And Raja saw how confident I am on the stage. It's my wheelhouse. I love addressing people. I love shaking hands. I love encouraging. And we have to always follow that leadership style. We cannot lead with fear. And what Trump did was he led with fear on Facebook, and people bought into it. And you can't do that. We got to be smarter than that now. So at the community level, another thing you can look into is look into the group called Citizens United or Citizen University. Citizens University will offer small grants to politically active small town voting events. So they'll give you like $3,000-4,000. And then you can hold a party on voting day, and you can do anything. You can like bring games, you can have balloons, you can have clowns, you can have animals, traveling zoos, whatever. You can bring all kinds of fun stuff and make voting day something happy and healthy for the kids to see, before they can even vote. So that's something to build community pride around the voting structure. It's called Citizens University, and they're out of, I want to say they're out of Seattle, Washington. I went to one of their events in West Palm Beach, Florida, about 5 months ago. So, but I could have an initiative for that, but I cannot, like right now, I'm not being paid to speak like this for right now. I tried to get this Facebook thing set up for the last 4 hours, and I was having technical difficulties. Nobody's paying me to do that right now. So I'm asking for the youth to rise up with their vote, and they're so strong digitally. I can win this. If I have $40 million of first-time voters get behind me, I will win this. I don't care if Trump spends $300 million. I will win this with $40 million. I don't care if Oprah spends $200 million. I will still win it because I am relatable to most American people, and I have the healthcare background that nobody else has. I'm from Detroit. I'm not from New York City. I'm not from Seattle. I'm not from LA. I've had exposure in all those states with my living experiences, but I'm from a bankrupted city. So I know what it's like to be taken down to your knees. I know what it's like to work in the homes of very, very poor people. I grew up in a blue collar family. A lot of my family lived in trailer parks. I mean, I am not from wealthy people. I'm from spiritual people. I'm from driven people that care and do a lot with next to no money. I'm not an elite career politician that's running because I've got $55 million of personal savings. I don't have that. I have an education, and I have a lot of practical work experience in Michigan, Ohio, Florida, and New York. And I've also lived in California and currently have legal rights to a house in Indiana as well. So I'm very relatable. I will help the communities rise up. But again, I've already created a tool that they can use right now through powers2020.com. Yeah, I mean, that's not a problem. When I ran with my first campaign in 11 and 12 was the Kristen Noel Grisky. My legal last name was Grisky, Kristen Noel Grisky campaign. And at that point, it was, I don't know, like 15 years post 9/11. So New York City still was kind of hesitant with running me with such a religious name. So my name is spelled Christin, Christ in Noel. I'm labeled after Jesus. That's my name. Okay. I was born in December. I was born a week before Christmas. So I was, I carried a high level of spirituality with me. Now, though, I ended up, I'm getting a lot of feedback, but what I wanted to, I'm going to keep talking. I ended up changing the name of the campaign to the Kristen Powers campaign because I wanted the people to rise up, feel like their power was rising up. I want every American needs to feel powerful to get anything done when they're constantly just trying to make it through this tough life here in America. So I wanted this to be my new mission statement. She who pushes you powers you. She who pushes you powers you. Anybody that knows me personally knows I'm never content, and I'm always pushing people beyond their personal limits. I'm always pushing people to progress themselves. So I decided to change the name to the Kristen Powers campaign. And I may take it one step further once the government gets back up and running, and I may take it to the American Powers campaign. I may change my legal name to American Powers if they, the judge allows me to do it and all of that. I've got to go through 4 steps. But once the Pope visited New York City about 3 years ago, then the tone in New York City started to calm down a little bit. And it didn't seem like it was as religiously charged for any one population of people. It seemed like it was lessening. After the Pope went and traveled around the city, it was becoming okay and more acceptable to be proud of your spiritual backgrounds. So, I am against Christians that are anti-Muslim or anti-Jewish. I'm against Jewish people that are anti-Christian or anti-Muslim. I'm against Muslim people that are I mean, we all need to learn to work with one another. The world is never going to be perfect. And we are in a time where I feel like the people that still harbor hatred amongst the different religious groups are typically in the 70-year-old age bracket and older. They still have that. I mean, I've met a lot of people over the years, and that's the group where that phobia really exists. And guess who is that age? Donald Trump is that age. Okay, Donald Trump is in that age group. He's 72 or whatever. I am 50 years old. I just turned 50. So we need my youth. We need my energy now. I have people tell me all the time, why are you not going to run for Senate? Why are you not going to run for the governorship? Because I'm not going to do what Hillary did. I'm not going to be distracted by running for Senate. I'm not going to be distracted. I mean, I could have ran for a bunch of offices this last year in Florida, and when the website people saw the work I had done in Iraq and Afghanistan and Qatar, they're like, this is international already, and it's multi-state. It has presidency written all over it. It doesn't have local office written all over it. So I've been at this since 2003. I'm not going to work on this for 20 more years. I want to be paid for what I'm doing now. I want the office. I want to lift the world now, lift the country and lift the world. And then I want to just be an advisor to America afterwards. But I'm not going to do it when I'm 60 years old. I'm not going to do it when I'm 70. I'm doing it now. So either you guys got to grasp onto me now, or you're going to lose me, because I'm not, the New York press will make it seem like I'm brand new to this, and I'm not. So yeah, it's, I think that the Seiko event where I met Raja 3 weeks ago was phenomenal. To have an interdenominational celebration like that is very needed. Those things should be done often. They can be done in neighborhoods. They can be done at prayer meetings and churches, and mosques and synagogues. they can be done in halls, like what they did in Edison, New Jersey. You know, though I'm for the freedom of religion, religion will, will always exist. Freedom of religion will always exist here. Peaceful freedom of religion, and we need to, Christians can be aggressive, Muslims can be aggressive, Jews can be aggressive. Everybody can all be aggressive in their mindsets. And we really just, like I always go back to saying, life is too short to waste on that. We need to know more about one another's religions. We need to embrace one another's religions. And I don't feel it needs to be about conversion. I mean, people do not need to try to convert other people to their religions. We don't need to, that's like a hard salesman trying to sell a used car, in my opinion. We need to rejoice and celebrate and know what's in the Torah, know what's in the Bible, know what's in the Catholic Bible versus the Lutheran Bible, know all these different walks of life. I mean, I used to be in a house church group called Beginnings in Christ House Church. And during a time frame when I was in my early 20s, we studied religions from all over the world. So we were open-minded, and so that we understood where people were coming from and what tradition was. So even though I identify with the Christian religion, in the Old Testament version of the Bible is very, tells stories that are very aggressive and very full of hate and war and all of that. I feel that, we are evolving into a society of humanity where we can be more what Christians refer to as like the grace side or the love-focused side. We're always going to have sin in the world. We are always going to have shortfalls and pitfalls and struggles. So that's never going to go away. But we need to renew our hearts every day and get up every day and try to do better for our future America, or our fellow Americans, not our future Americans, but our fellow Americans and our future Americans that may be coming here. We will have a lot of, there's going to be a renewed sense of healing and peace with me in the White House. I am not a savior by any way, shape, or form. I'm not perfect. I'm humble, and I'm confident at the same time. And I recognize that I want all people to exude those sort of qualities as well. Yeah, I mean, America's greatest abuse of the environment, it takes place with our digital use of electricity and all of the social media apps that we have right now. So we need to have some sort of check and balance on the amount of data that we're using daily. Like just to hold this conversation right now, to hold this conversation, we're using like 6 computers right now just to make this happen. But it's in order to solve the issue. Now, if you juxtapose that with Instagram or Snapchat, and they're creating apps where we can take photographs of animals and then put silly glasses on an animal or a bow tie or something silly and stupid like that, we're actually creating technology that is so entertaining that it's going to destruct the environment. So we need to have a balance and a check and balance in the amount of electricity that we use, the amount of data centers that we need, like in Greenland and Iceland and up in that area of the world that are causing the icebergs to melt and that are heating the planet. Again, we need to be very, like the younger generations with the parents that are putting their kids on social media right off the bat. I'm a huge advocate for educating them on the amount of time that they actually read books. and to actually get off of social media and get back to paper, or get back to just being outside in the environment, putting down their surfaces, putting down all of that, and just being out in the environment. Swimming, biking, playing ball, playing cricket, playing tag, playing outside without a device in your hand is a form of entertainment. That's the same for adults. Adults need to be out in the community walking, rollerblading, bicycle riding, running, swimming, boating, walking their dogs. If we're taking 6 million photographs of our dogs every day and we're putting them into an app and then we're posting them, that's actually hurting the environment for our wildlife. So we have to be really, I need to preach that, from the White House, so that we can be responsible about the amount of data usage that we use daily. And I think that we all should have a printout on how much electricity we use on a daily basis. I think that should maybe be something we could mandate, where all Americans know how much electricity they use daily, and then maybe have goals to cut back on that, or to shift how they use this technology. Well, I know right now for a fact that the zombies and the aliens know every move that I make. So, there's too many things in my life that are beyond coincidental. Yeah, I mean, I without having any intimate knowledge right now about it, there would be, yeah, I mean, our kids need to be educated in areas of this nature right now, because we have to have them be cutting edge with developing our technologies, so the Earth can survive a healthy, however many more years, and so that we can be as safe as possible. Our superstorms, especially in America, are getting out of hand. I've been with my photographer. I've been to Mexico Beach twice in the last 8 weeks. Mexico Beach was completely destroyed. Tyndall Air Force Base was also completely destroyed. And again, our storms are getting stronger, and we were told that was a Cat 4 or Cat 5 that hit Mexico Beach, and the people there went to bed thinking it was going to be a level 2. And if you look into my photographs from there, you will see it looked like a bomb went off there. It was horrific. And I went back just 2 weeks, in between these New York trips, I went back up there, and most of the homes now are being leveled and having to be rebuilt, which is a huge cost to our insurance companies. So and many of the people didn't even have insurance. So I was trying to get some kind of a national music live aid type thing to have, or farm aid type thing to happen for Mexico Beach and for the California wildfires and the campfires as well that happened out west. But you know, I haven't been successful because I've been so busy traveling back and forth to talk to the political action committee groups now. But I can only do so much in the day. But basically, yeah, I mean, with Area 51, I would love to know more about it, and I think I would have a good amount of sense of, you know, what should be disclosed to the public and what shouldn't be, and also with NASA and with everything, the projects that we have going on at NASA, and with our Space Force, you know, money would continue to be behind that with me. And, you know, I'm a scientist by nature. I took a lot of biology. I took a lot of chemistry and pharmacology and anatomy. I've worked on 6 cadavers from head to toe. I've dissected 6 bodies head to toe. And I was scrutinized. That was the best class I ever had in my life, was working on 6 cadavers in 1 year. And I had to identify every single part of the human body inside and out. Without that kind of knowledge, you don't have the critical thinking skills that you need really to run a government in this day and age. So I can hold my own with any scientist that's a physicist or an astrologist or astronomer, or, you know, neuropsychologist, neurologist. I mean, I can hold a conversation with any cardiologist, lung doctor, chronic pain doctor, you name it. I'm up there as far as my education goes with being able to understand and communicate with any of our issues that are tied with science. So yeah, we can look into that. And you know, if I get married again in the White House, maybe I'll marry an alien, or maybe I'll marry a zombie. Okay, to spend more on what versus nuclear? Right. Well, I would just basically use common sense and rational thinking. I would not use bullying techniques at all. My personality is one in which we would need to meet together, and we would need to discuss the cost, the risk, the lunacy behind any kind of destructive weapon like that, you know, those weapons. We really, that's a mindset, I think, that is driven by hate and greed and destruction. And if we want to have governments that are pro-humanity, we need to, those kind of weapons do not make sense. I understand why they exist, and you know, the example that Trump just set with, you know, with North Korea, you know, he handled it the way he did not handle it well in the press, and then he befriended him acted like he was his best buddy in order to have certain things happen. And it was just, you know, that particular situation was one in which he was basically glorifying a man that has many human rights atrocities under his belt. So, you know, we have to do whatever we can to make rational, common sense decisions. And sometimes when you get to a level of power and you're talking about protecting humanity and millions of lives, you know, decisions aren't always made that seem logical and seem sensible for progression of the planet. So I would sit down with both countries independently. I would also sit down with both countries together, and I would pull together experts in the area as well, and we would just have a lot of common sense decisions. I would have people in the room that I also trust, that are also helping that, you know, have a record of getting this campaign to move forward very quickly in this next 12 months. From a translation perspective, so people that are able to translate for me to the scientists or to the military and government. I would need that also if they're not, you know, good English speakers. But you know, it's, you know, we're going to be so distracted from a lot of that with my leadership anyways. Our mindsets will be distracted because we will be celebrating many overcoming equality issues in America and hatred issues and bigotry issues with my leadership. So there's, you know, the bad guys are going to look really bad. I mean, they're going to look stupid. And they won't be tolerated. They'll be removed from power if they need to be removed from power. You know, I'm not afraid to, I've already laid down the groundwork with, you know, the military. I built a rapport as a healthcare provider by going to Walter Reed Medical Center. And I have been, I was awarded a flag by a lieutenant colonel in 2004 for the work I did in Qatar. So I have that relationship built, and he was a National Guardsman, so he would be one of my go-to guys for anything I do from an administrative level as well, because he's known me the longest as far as being a military person, you know, in his midlife service time. So I would surround myself with, you know, the top business professionals, the top active political figures in the country from the PAC perspective, and in the science community, and we would just address these issues with peace and with, you know, with science and with funding and all of that. I need to look at all of those numbers, and I would need to get smart about it. But India will be able to trust me. Pakistan will be able to trust me. I do not have to function off of lies and deceit because I function off a high level of integrity and non-corruption. So most people were not raised in the church like I was, and most people were not born in December like me, and most people are not women. I mean, I'm very unique. I'm very, very unique in all of my experiences because I have a level of optimism and confidence that most people just don't have because they didn't watch their grandfather in the pulpit every Sunday encouraging 300 people in a very tough town. So, you know, I honestly, I've had an innate way about me my entire life to work out resistance, And I'm to the point now when people resist me, I have to leave them behind, and then they're going to have to follow later. Because if resisting what I offer to the country and to the world is a waste of, you know, if people resist me, they're wasting their time. If they are swayed by the press, they're wasting their time. If they're swayed by the popular televised press that's been traditional in New York City for the last 40 to 50 years, and they're not promoting me, then they're wasting their time. I know I'm the best answer for right now. So, you know, I will embrace India, and I will embrace Pakistan. I would embrace any leader with rational sense from any country, and then any leader that's irrational, I would still embrace them, but we just got to go about how we do that differently. But I sincerely care for every single person in this world, and I feel like a lot of minds can be changed and healed and mended with my leadership. So we're still going to need militaries. We're still going to have our differences, but the world needs a break for a little while. We need a break on this planet Earth, and we're exhausting ourselves, and it's showing through our financials, and we need to have strong men, and we need to have strong women, and we need to really recognize our constitutional right to equality by getting me in the White House and moving very quickly right now. So campaign time can go by very, very quickly in any election cycle. And I cannot stress enough that people, if they want me to get to California tomorrow, I can fly to California tomorrow, but I need help with the plane ticket now, or I need help with the lodging, I need help with the photography fees or whatever. Because I put a lot of money out this last year, and I've got a career and a reputation that we really need in the White House right now. And so please do not hesitate. If my website is down and we're dealing with these technical issues, it's a way. It could be spiritual warfare, it could be political warfare, it could be corporate warfare. I mean, these little glitches I've dealt with my whole life with communicating, and we just have to keep pushing forward and around them. As long as we lead with the right intentions, good intentions, and good karma, whatever you want to label it, a true heart, we're going to succeed. We're going to win this. Yeah. All I want people to remember is, number one, that we've been on live now for an hour and a half. So you're going to post this, and then I'm going to post it as well on mine. So on mine's going to look different to you. You're going to see me speaking, and then you're going to be in the background on my computer. So we can kind of prove that this all happened here. And I'm being recorded live on my end visually. So they can go to my Facebook page, which is Kristen Powers Campaign. They can also go to powers2020.com, and then they can also send a check to the Kristen Powers Campaign. They can send a check or money order certified. I would recommend it be certified so it's not lost in the mail, to Kristen Powers Campaign, CHRISTIN POWERS Campaign, CAMPAIGN. That check can be, if it's from an individual donor, it can be $1 up to $1,700 annually per person from a citizen. Loans from corporations can be given, and those can be different amounts or higher amounts. PACs can give me different amounts of money or promote me through their PAC. We need to run an ad in the Palm Beach Post down here right now. We need to run a full page ad. If it were backed by any PAC that is American Pakistani, that'd be phenomenal, because right now down in Palm Beach, I have a lot of elderly people that still read the print news that need to see my face. We need a full page ad. So if somebody wants to back that or get behind that, please start running those, or contact me for photographs or whatever. The other thing is, the check or money order, if it's mailed to 141 Pine Hill Trail West in Tequesta, Florida, TEQUESTA, Florida 33469, send it certified, because I think I'm dealing with a few online issues that are probably somehow intentional, because I'm making really fast progress right now. But we're going to have headaches like that through the entire next 12 months, so we just have to keep moving forward regardless. But if there are dates and I have to book things and put it on my charge, I can be reimbursed later. I like to do 24 to 48 hour trips, but what makes sense to me right now is, I think if I traveled from here to Dallas to California, or from here to Dallas to Oklahoma and California, if I were to do 2 days in each state, sooner rather than later, I think it'll be phenomenal momentum for the American Pakistanis, and then that is going to spill over into all other cultures that are in America. I am supremely grateful for Raja Razak and for AP Pack and Seiko and for my new friend here right now. So thank you so much for everything, the calls, the time. Mr. Youssef, I really appreciate it. And we are going to win this if we do not let up from this momentum. You can contact me daily if you need to, okay? Okay, that's fine. And then it's just one correction, and then I'll wrap up with my mission statement, and then I'll disconnect. So it's powers2020.com. It's not just power, www.powers2020.com. And then the mission statement that I want to leave everybody with is, she who pushes you powers you. She who pushes you powers you. So anything that gets printed or anything that gets supported, we want to put that on buttons, on print mailing labels, on the ads, on anything. She who pushes you powers you is the main. I think we all need to focus on that comment, and then we will succeed. And thank you. Okay, we'll talk soon and stay in touch. Bye-bye now.